Welcome everyone back to another episode of Q&A with Sharon's son George. I was my mother's caregiver after she was diagnosed with Parkinson's disease. Unfortunately, she passed on 1/1/2020, but we started Together for Sharon.com in her memory and to advocate for a cure for all those still battling Parkinson today and their families, because no one is ever alone in this fight for a cure. Today's guest is someone simply beautiful and incredible and inspiring, and I don't get the opportunity every day to advocate around the world, and especially Australia. Yesterday, we actually had a show right from Great Britain. So I really love how we break, barriers and borders, and how important it is that our voices are so much stronger together. I just wanted to welcome you, and honor to have the CEO of Parkinson's Australia with us today.
Thank you so much, George.
Well, I really appreciate it. And I tell the story a lot, but my mother passed away 5 years ago, but it wasn't until 2 years after that I kind of was shocked and a little heartbroken. Again, I knew there were about 1.2 million people in the United States, and some reason in our America, at least my world, it's kind of, you're a little sheltered. You don't think of the world. So I discovered the World Parkinson Congress, and ironically, that's where I met my international family like yourself. And I was heartbroken when I found out there were 10 million people worldwide battling this disease. And that's when I went on a mission to interview 1,000 people, around the world. And now with the show, we're really able to bring not just the pen to the paper and the written interview, but the voice. And just so excited again to share all that you're doing and the beautiful organization with the world. Maybe you can start the audience off today with a little bit about yourself.
Well, I was my Yiayia, so my grandmother's end-of-life carer. So similar to you, George, looking after your beautiful mum. I got to look after my beautiful grandmother with Parkinson's. And it was a really special time for us. It was probably in that era before a lot was known about living well with Parkinson's and well-being and all of those kind of things. And so we were very limited to just medication and then trying to cognitively keep her active. But she inspires a lot of my work. I always say that people don't always get to wake up every day really excited and motivated to do their jobs, but I am blessed and lucky enough to actually be one of those people that's inspired to get up every day and do the best that I can for people living with Parkinson's, not just in Australia, but around the world. We know that numbers in Australia are set to triple in 2050. And when I say that to politicians who are thinking about our economy and our health system, they should be frightened. They should be frightened about what impact that is going to have on our health system and our economy and those individual people and family and Australians living with what is an insidious condition.
Yeah, I mean, if you just your the beginning of the show, you've hit on so many topics that we could probably have several shows on politicians, because I've actually trying to reach out just in Florida in the U.S. to our local politicians, because they just, I believe, put a registry, or they're trying to, through for Parkinson, but I can't even get a return call. And this is a shout out to our politicians. Feel free. We welcome them on the show. It's not easy, but we did have the honor to have one of the founders and actually sponsors of the national plan to end Parkinson's, Congressman Bill Arrakis, on the show recently. But I know how important it is that everyone listening, whether in Australia, around the world, please keep reaching out to your politicians and elected officials. The only way we're going to get them to respond and really care is if we all contact them together. Well, I really appreciate all that you've already introduced. I wanted to see if it's okay if we could dedicate today's show in memory of your grandmother, because I feel through us and everyone listening, she still lives on with my mother. I hope they're both either painting, laughing, or playing piano, and enjoying life still
I
upstairs.
think my Yiayia would be cooking for them all.
Oh, I love it. Well, my mother loved food, so maybe she'll be enjoying.
Good.
Well, I wanted to now touch a little bit or turn to Parkinson's Australia, because to me, I learned about it actually a few years ago, and I just have a passion for it, because I think that if we reach, one person each show, whether they're in Australia or here in the US, and they donate or support or attend your speeches, your events, I feel, or volunteer, I feel like we've changed the world for the better. Can you tell us, and actually, as we do that, I'm going to also encourage everyone to please simply go to parkinson.org.au, and you can see a lot more with the amazing CEO here and the entire organization. But can you tell us a little bit about the Parkinson's Australia, and then a little bit, about your role?
Yeah, so we reformed as Parkinson's Australia after kind of 10 years of being quite dormant. I took on the appointment after running a state-based organisation in South Australia, Australian Capital Territory, Northern Territory for 9 years. So I ran the state-based Parkinson's organisation, which is the one that does, the interdisciplinary healthcare for people living with Parkinson's, or the support groups, the recreational groups such as art and singing and things like that. So I think in that terms, I was in a really good position to know what happens on a state level, and then what was missing on a national level. And what was really missing on a national level was responses to federal policy, submissions to, MSAC, and things that, influence what medications go on the PBS, what medications are free for people. And so, or what therapies are available on the public system, like deep brain stimulation or MRI guided focused ultrasound. So lobbying for those kind of things. And also, like you said, a regular presence with federal politicians, reminding them all the time about the prevalence and incidence of Parkinson's in Australia, what that means for people living with the condition, where people are affected adversely, like in rural, regional, and remote areas, particularly, how work shortages, in regional, rural, and remote areas means that, there are no allied health professionals when someone is, living in the outback, and how difficult it is to see a neurologist. The gaps between neurology appointments and what happens between those appointments. So all of those things to make sure that the government, the one that's in government, the opposition and independents all know about those things. The other thing that we're doing, which I'm super excited about, is the first face-to-face national conference in 10 years. So the last one was held in 2015, and the next one will be in World Parkinson's Month, 6th to 8th of April in Canberra, and the theme is connection. Now, connection is part of Parkinson's Australia's new tagline, which is national advocacy, connection, awareness. And we really stick to those three pathways as our promises to the community. And I know that you've been to Congress, and I have too. And it's all very well to sit in the sessions and learn about research and treatments and all of those kind of things. But I think you'll agree, George, that the most beautiful part of people in the Parkinson's community getting together is during those breaks and dinners and, morning and afternoon teas, and those sessions that aren't structured, where you actually get to know people and learn people's stories and hear about other people that live all the way across the other side of the world, but have so many things in common with you and your experience. And so what the most important part of this conference is, whilst learning and education about research and well-being is absolutely paramount in our, in our program, is actually those parts where people get to speak to each other, and people get to bond with each other, and people get to connect and make new friendships. And that's what we're looking forward to most of all.
Well, one thing I definitely love is the connection, and we've been connected now, and it means the world to me and everybody out there. We've seen Rochelle's been on the show. We love Rochelle and many of the other incredible speakers coming. I do hope everybody will connect with you just for this special connection and beyond, not just for one conference, but for all of them. And I also love how, if you go to parkinson.org.au, you can follow Facebook, X, Instagram, LinkedIn, so many, valuable sources. You can kind of be a part of it 24/7, which is why technology, there might be some pitfalls or negatives, but really for Parkinson's awareness, it's such a positive. And I wanted to, again, thank you for sharing that. And I thought I had a lot of social media, but you all have so many. And I like tagging you all, as you know, and over the years, we've always kind of tried to support one another. But I do hope everyone to go to the website. You can donate, can support all that they do, and there's so many ways to get involved. One also, you can actually also so get the newsletter, which I have. But one thing I did also want to focus on, you mentioned earlier, and in another way, it's kind of, we try to be inspiring on the show, but we're real, and it's a tough disease. It's a battle. My mother and your grandmother unfortunately lost their battle. And now, shockingly, what's happening is it's getting diagnosed more for younger individuals. And I think what you're doing is beautiful for the young onset population. Maybe you can touch on this part of the website and all the efforts that Parkinson's Australia is making to ensure that people are not, ill-informed, that this is not just an elderly disease, but it now is affecting every race, gender, geographic location, and now even more concerning is young people.
Yeah, so we were lucky enough to receive funding from the federal government to create YOPEX. YOPEX stands for Young Onset Parkinson's Exchange, and it's actually an app and a website. And so people can, it's formed by a working party of people living with young onset Parkinson's and their caregivers. And it has done so right from the start. So we call it a living lab project. So this group of people has always informed all the design, all the content. Some of the design and content we had to create because there weren't resources out there. Like you said, people think of it as an older person's disease. And so we had to create things that didn't exist, sex, intimacy, and relationships. Talking about sex and disability wasn't something that was kind of freely available in terms of information. It also connects people with issues that are pertinent to young onset Parkinson's that might not be relevant to someone who was older and has retired, like driving, working, raising children, all of those kind of things. Making sure that people are aware of their options if they're, looking at giving up employment, or what kind of insurances are available. With young onset Parkinson's, early intervention as well. I mean, like with anyone that's diagnosed with Parkinson's, early intervention is absolutely crucial. So giving people the tools to eat well, know about hydration, know that certain kinds of exercise can actually slow down and improve symptoms, those kind of things. And so to have an app that's got all of that information stored in there, and a website that people can go to, has been essential. In an Australian context, it also helps people with young onset Parkinson's enter into the National Disability Insurance Scheme. That is a financial aid to pay for things that assist in well-being. So it could be OT or physio. It could be other types of allied health professional support, like going to see a dietitian. It could be having people come to help with the garden because you're not able to do that anymore because of your fatigue. And so NDIS does assist people living with Parkinson's, and we implore everyone under the age of 65 with Parkinson's to apply for NDIS, and we'll be holding sessions about that at conference, so that if anyone has any questions on whether or not they're eligible or is confused about the process, then start with the app and then talk to us further. And we're happy to help. But it is by people with young onset Parkinson's for people with young onset Parkinson's. And the person that leads that project, our content strategist, Tina, is married to Craig, who's living with young onset Parkinson's. So it really is driven by that group.
I appreciate you sharing that, and it does bring encouragement to see the technology being used for the better. Again, 5 years ago, I don't even know if we had apps or cell phones. I know my mother struggled. I mean, she didn't meet anyone in 15 years who had Parkinson's, so we really felt alone. I'm fascinated today, how many things there are for people with Parkinson's and caregivers, but I think that this is very important. And I think it's also good for people who might not be diagnosed, neighbors, friends of people diagnosed. It's really for, I feel, everyone out there. So please, again, go to the youngonsetparkinson.org and you'll be able to download the app. And I think that this is just, incredible. There's one other area which we started off the show talking about politics, and I hate talking about politics because most people in all over the world can't get along or agree on anything except when it comes to finding a cure. We all do, I think, 100% agree that we need it. And also there are other issues in the world that we're talking about. I know that Paraguay is banned in most countries in the world, I guess, except Australia and the United States. So we might have something, sadly, there in common also. I'm surprised. I was curious, how is that effort going? I know here I fill out through the Michael J. Fox Foundation every year, the legislation, trying to get it just to, the politicians to open their eyes and see how dangerous this is. But I was curious how that fight to ban it is going in Australia.
Well, how it's going is kind of unknown at the moment, but I can tell you where the campaign is up to. So we launched a campaign, excuse me, to ban paraquat here in Australia a few months ago. And it was met with anger by some of the farmers' associations. But it was at the time that the APVMA, which is the equivalent to your EPA, was reviewing the use of paraquat and the policies surrounding that. And so, it just came up at that time that we needed to respond, and we needed to respond strongly. So we did so with a petition and our own submission to the APVMA, which outlines how many countries it's banned in. And then a lot of individuals and groups did as well. So neurologists, here in South Australia, in Australia, movement disorder specialists. I know that Ray Dorsey put in a submission, and others as well. So other, farming groups that are anti-paraquat. So I believe that we have possibly around 10 to 15 submissions with our equivalent of the EPA. And I'm sure that the farming associations submitted just as many. And we have received notification that there is a delay in their decision. And I think that's probably because of the amount of submissions that they received, which is not a bad thing. The more that they can read and the more information that they have, the more, the more that they will have to consider what is the safest position for Australians. And now we talk about it as in, like, we don't want Australian farmers to be getting Parkinson's. I don't want anyone to be getting Parkinson's. I don't want someone that is producing my food. I don't want to eat potatoes at night knowing that the potato farmer, runs a risk of getting Parkinson's. I don't want that. So we are absolutely pro-farmer in this. We're pro-farmer in the sense that we don't want them to be suffering from this condition. And so, if so many countries around the world have banned it, there's other farming practices that we can introduce. So that is a silly argument that there's no other way that we can possibly farm. I don't know of any country that's banned paraquat that is currently starving because they have no food production. So, we need to have an open and frank conversation with farmers. And also, we are of the belief that the government does need to support the change between using paraquat to other methodologies as well. It can't just be that you ban something and then you let farmers just, go off and suffer the changeover by themselves. There does need to be systems in place where farmers are supported to transition farms from using these dangerous chemicals into practices that doesn't put farmers and their staff in danger.
I appreciate you bringing up the topic and being an advocate to ban it, because I think this conversation today will also spur others, hopefully around the world. And we need everyone out there, again, several times more, to reach out to your congressman and woman, no matter what country, state, city, location, municipal, and help support Parkinson's Australia and all that they're trying to do to save everybody and to keep us safe. I don't understand, my mind, I guess, is small and don't understand how that isn't already banned. But I believe with individuals like you running really like the race at the head of it with the torch, I see we're in good hands. So thank you for that. Wanted to shift to the final part of the show, which I don't like saying final or the end, because as you know, and everyone listening, this conversation has to continue throughout the world until the cure is at everybody's doorsteps worldwide. So I was wondering if you can share 3 words that describe who you are.
Mm, I
These are
would say loyal, loud, and um, oh, caring.
thank you. What is the one moment or most memorable moment that stands out through most of your work with awareness so far that you can share?
Probably the campaign that we did with legendary cricketer Alan Border for World Parkinson's Day last year, which went viral on Australian media and resulted in $800,000 from the federal budget for a Parkinson's education campaign for GPs and allied health professionals.
Thank you. And it's always an interesting area because, you've been doing so many incredible things, but always curious, what the one standing out memory that you kind of never forget. Also, dealing with Parkinson's, people diagnosed, families, and losing a loved one. It's not always easy. Obviously, it's inspiring what you're doing, but we like to take a moment on the show to thank, obviously, you for your advocacy, but also to thank those behind the scenes that really, they want to be private and in your life. And we want to send our love and support to them too. But I was wondering if you could tell us who helps you during times of struggle. I was a caregiver. I know how important it is to also be a voice behind the scenes to help support you to be able to do what you're doing today.
I'd have to say my mum and dad because I am a sole parent, which means I have my 12-year-old 24/7, and I do have to travel a lot to the nation's capital to do the kind of advocacy work that Parkinson's Australia does. And so my mum and dad are there to look after my son, and they're happy to in order to support the work of Parkinson's Australia and myself. So definitely them.
Well, we send our love and support to both your parents and the whole staff and everyone who supports you to be able to do what you do today. And thank you again. If you were asked to write a script to a movie about your life story, what would you call it and what actress would play your role? If they get into the Australian actresses, which we love here.
Well, Australian actresses are very good, aren't
Doesn't
they?
have to.
But I'm afraid that none of them really look like me because
That's
they're
up
all blonde and blue-eyed. So I think I have to pick someone more of with a European background, and I'm not quite sure who that would be. And I think my script would be called Determined.
I love it. Thank you. And if you had a chance to go back to the past and speak to yourself, an earlier starting out advocate, Olivia CEO, before CEO world, what would you say to your younger self?
Actually, just stick on the same pathway because I have had an extraordinary history with what I call, I just created a section of employment for myself, which I call social justice. And so I've always been in social justice as a job. And I don't think many people really chose that as a career. But, all of my past history and work is within social justice. So I would just say, keep on trucking, girl.
I like that. And I agree with a lot of what you just said. I'm a law enforcement officer here and an attorney, but I had dedicated my life to advocacy for victims of crime, specifically females or African American mothers who lost their loved one due to crime. I shifted my whole life though when my mother was diagnosed. So I think to be an advocacy even for Parkinson's, you had to kind of have a heart too for other areas. Unfortunately, I do correlate sometimes victims of crime with people diagnosed with Parkinson because often many populations and segments are forgotten, and that's what we're trying to do. And everyone listening to really share this to get the word out because this wouldn't be possible without all of you as well. So thank you for that. Who is your hero and inspiration?
I think we've already covered that. My Yiayia, definitely. Yiayia Despino. So Despina in English. So yeah, definitely her.
I love to reiterate it. It's very important. I appreciate it. And if you could leave the Parkinson's community today with some words of encouragement, what would they be?
I think there is an extraordinary sense of connection within the Parkinson's community. So I think that whilst you have been, been given this extraordinary challenge to live with, being diagnosed with Parkinson's, it's also an extraordinary community to be a part of. And so I think if there was something to be grateful for, is that we've got so many amazing people within the Parkinson's community. And I think that gives people comfort. It certainly comforts me.
I really appreciate that and your time and all that you've done and will do in the future. I did want to leave the show today with a message for you. And it's we love you, we support you, we care a lot about you, and you're never alone. I, along with our incredible CEO, will advocate for you, all our listeners, and together our voices are so much stronger. And I always end the show with just saying I'm just getting started because even though we've been both been doing this for some time, we still have a lot of work still to do. But on the days that I find tough, difficult, or I even feel like giving up, I look to you, Australia, and what you all do, and just realize I have to jump right back up and keep fighting until the cure is at everybody's doorsteps around the world. So I just really wanted to thank you for your time and everyone listening as well. It really means the world to me.
Thank you so much, George, for having me.
I appreciate it, and I encourage everyone, please go to parkinson.org.au and we'll add that to the show notes. But again, this has been another episode of Q&A with Sharon and George. Please stay tuned. We have so much more to come, and there's also really a lot more work to do. But I know if, as long as we fight together, side by side throughout the world, we'll come closer to a cure. Thank you all again for listening, and thanks again. See you soon. Thanks, everyone.